Why are people sick and dying on former Naval Station Treasure Island in San Francisco Bay? The Navy held Treasure Island as a base from 1941 to 1997. For those 56 years, the Navy left toxins in the soil across the island. These poisons included radiation, weapons-grade chemicals like sarin gas, and the heavy metals lead, arsenic, and mercury. Navy personnel worked in the less toxic area at the right side of the map. The Navy hauled its garbage out to the remote end of the island facing the Golden Gate Bridge and burned it in the green area on the left. Between 1965 and 1985, the Navy constructed on top of this radioactive chemical garbage dump townhouses for the thousands of sailors and their families cycling through the island during 3 wars. Many became ill and died from exposure to poisons under and around their homes. In 1997, after the Navy decommissioned the island, the city of San Francisco sent homeless, low-income, and people of color to live in the old Navy housing. They too became and are becoming ill with heart attacks, strokes, seizures, tumors, rashes, skin sores, hair loss, cancer, and more. Trelise Miller and her daughters Taylor and Brianna were one of these families. For 16 years between 2007 and 2022, they were exposed to multiple toxins in 2 separate neighborhoods, living feet from 3 of the Navy's most heavily contaminated cleanup zones. Navy officials like those pictured here said they would clean the toxins. They isolated 5 areas of highest concentration in the soil under the houses and called them solid waste disposal areas, a fancy name for toxic dump. They surrounded these 5 toxic dumps with green tarp-covered wire mesh fences and assured residents they would be safe if they stayed outside these fence lines, though they constantly moved them around. 2 toxic dumps that the Navy named North Point and Bayside after island streets lined the shore across from Oakland and Berkeley. A third, the West Side Solid Waste Disposal Area, extended along the shore facing downtown San Francisco. The remaining 2 of the 5, Halliburton and Bigelow Solid Waste Disposal areas, remain 2 blocks inland, still enclosed in a green tarp fence with the radiation signs removed. A bright turquoise line with a black line running through it connects the Shoreline Bayside Cleanup Zone with Halliburton Bigelow Cleanup Zone 2 blocks inland. This turquoise line inside the red circle shows a path along which toxins were washed from the shore toward the island's interior. As a result, the 2 blocks along Bayside Drive between the 2 solid waste disposal areas was littered with radioactive objects and soils found under and around people's homes. Residual radiation remains. Here's a close-up of the turquoise line colored red. Trelise's family lived inland on the right side of the 2-block area circled in black. They were exposed to all 10 radioactive objects and soils the Navy found inside the circle. Most of the radioactive material was radium-226, which has a half-life of 1,600 years. The box in the upper right lists the 10 places along the red line where the Navy found radiation. The first was in the Bayside Solid Waste Disposal area at the shore. Second, under Townhouse 1205, from which the Navy relocated Cindy and Paris Hayes, one of 24 families moved out in 2013 because of radiation. Third, from under the front step of Townhouse 1203A, the Navy dug a basketball-sized clump of radioactive soil in 2019. The arrow in the Navy's photos shows lighter cement where they replaced the 1203A step and sidewalk. Fourth, in the area circled in orange, the Navy dumped radioactive trash in a burn pit beneath Bayside Drive. Fifth, under the Townhouse 1201B sidewalk and lawn. In 2013, men in hazmat suits working for Navy contractor Gilbane dug out a radioactive object where kids sat and played and later got sick. In 2020, the Chronicle reported that Catherine Town and her family lived at 1201B Bayside Drive from 2005 to 2016. Her family, including her children, suffered from rashes, hair loss, tumors, thyroid, and heart problems that she attributed to radiation exposure. In front of the 6th location, Townhouse 1220, in 2014, this former resident showed me her swollen, painful legs that looked like the enlarged extremities of a person undergoing radiation therapy. Number 7 was a radioactive object the Navy found across Gateview Avenue under the grass behind a metal bench where kids caught the school bus. Radioactive area number 8 was the entire 1126 Reeves Court sidewalk. The red line continues through the grass between townhouses 1128 and 1126 Reeves Court, turns right onto the 1126 Reeves Court sidewalk, and runs in front of the former location of townhouse 1126 Reeves Court. In 2017, the Navy demolished 1126 Reeves Court because of toxicity. In 2014, while 1126 Reeves Court still filled this space, 9-year-old Brianna Miller lived there in Unit F. One day she ran down the sidewalk next to a line of flags bearing the radiation symbol. The red line follows the path of the flags to a sand lot where kids, including Brianna, played on radioactive area number 9, a blue play structure that has not been removed as of 2023. The kids said that afterwards they felt sick, and Brianna reported that her hair fell out in clumps. From the sand lot, the red line runs inland to radiation source number 10, Halliburton Bigelow Solid Waste Disposal Area. That toxic dump sits 50 feet from the demolished townhouse at 1126 Reeves Court, where Trelise and her daughter Brianna lived in Unit F until 2017. While living at 1126 F Reeves Court, Trelise had a stroke. In 2017, she moved across the island to townhouse 1237A North Point Drive, next to the North Point Solid Waste Disposal Area. There, after 16 years of exposure to highly toxic radiation, weapons-grade chemicals, and heavy metals from 3 toxic dumps in 2 Treasure Island neighborhoods, she suffered a massive heart attack and bypass surgery. This photo depicts her holding roses on her 50th birthday, November 5, 2022. A week later, on November 14th, she died. The question remains, what is responsible for taking this young, vibrant life so early? Who is responsible for this death?